I grew up believing heroes only existed on screens. You know the type. Capes, masks, dramatic music playing as they swooped in to save the day. The kind of people who could walk into a burning building without flinching, or catch a falling child from a collapsing bridge. Heroes were supposed to be obvious, larger than life, unmistakable. But on a Sunday night in late spring, standing under carnival lights with glitter still caught in my eyelashes and my feet aching in ways I'd never experienced before, I finally understood what heroism actually looked like. Because 2 days earlier, I was ready to quit everything. 2 days earlier, I had no idea that the quiet woman sleeping down the hall was about to change everything. My name is Justin. I'm 27 years old. For the past 5 years, I've made my living as a showman. Not the Vegas kind, not the grand illusion type with pyrotechnics and tigers. I'm the working man's entertainer. The guy you hire for corporate events, street festivals, fun fairs, the occasional wedding if the couple is adventurous enough. I'm good at what I do. Or at least, I was starting to believe I used to be good at what I do. The problem with being a showman is that you're only as good as your last show. I was becoming forgettable. No one remembers the brilliant performance from 6 months ago when a show falls flat. The same jokes getting weaker laughs, the same routines feeling more rehearsed, less alive. I could see it in the audience's eyes, that moment when interest flickered and dimmed, when they started checking their phones or turning to their companions for more interesting conversation. Jessica saw it before I did, she always does. A funfair gig had landed in my inbox 6 weeks before that weekend. It was a 2-day event, Saturday and Sunday, at one of those traveling carnival setups that rolls into town, transforms an empty field into a temporary wonderland, and then vanishes like it was never there. They needed a host, someone to work the crowds, introduce acts, fill dead air, keep energy high. The money was good. More importantly, the exposure was excellent. This particular fair had a reputation for drawing thousands of people, the kind of crowd density that could lead to future bookings if you made an impression, the kind of opportunity you don't turn down. Except I was terrified I was gonna waste it. For 6 weeks I'd been trying to prepare. I'd reviewed my old material, written new bits, practiced transitions, studied crowd psychology, and despite all of it, despite the preparation and planning and analyzing, I kept hitting the same wall. Everything I created felt repetitive, predictable, forgettable. There was nothing new here, nothing surprising, nothing that would make someone pull out their phone to record a moment worth sharing. The fear became a constant companion. By the Thursday before the weekend event, I'd stopped sleeping properly. By Friday afternoon, I'd developed a nervous habit of checking my phone every 30 seconds as if some emergency might offer me an honorable way out. By Friday night, I'd reached my breaking point. It was 11:43 p.m. when I finally admitted I was drowning. I'd been sitting on our bed for the past 2 hours, tablet in my lap, scrolling through old videos of my performances. The tablet screen glowed in the dark room, illuminating my face in harsh blue light. I kept replaying moments, analyzing what had worked, trying to reverse engineer magic that had happened naturally. None of it felt alive. I barely noticed when Jessica appeared in the doorway. She'd been in her studio, where she sketched, planned, and created the kind of visual magic that seemed to flow from her fingertips without effort. She must have heard the silence. Not the absence of sound, but the specific quality of my silence, the kind that meant I was spiraling. She didn't say anything at first, just leaned against the doorframe, wearing one of my old t-shirts and paint-stained sweatpants, watching me with those observant eyes that never seemed to judge, only to see. I kept scrolling, kept pretending I didn't notice her, kept hoping that if I just looked hard enough at these old performances, I'd find the secret ingredient I'd somehow lost. Justin. Her voice was soft, patient. The way you'd talk to someone standing on a ledge. I looked up. The tablet screen went dark from inactivity, plunging the room into deeper darkness. I didn't move to relight it. I can't do this. The words came out before I'd consciously decided to say them. They hung in the air between us, terrible in their honesty. I don't think I can do this anymore. Jessica moved into the room slowly, deliberately. She sat down on the bed beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. She didn't rush to fill the silence with reassurance. She just sat there, present, waiting for me to find the rest of the words. Tomorrow, I continued, my voice cracking slightly. I'm supposed to step onto a stage in front of thousands of people, and I have nothing new to give them. Nothing they haven't seen before. Nothing that matters. I could feel the panic rising in my chest. My hands were shaking. I clasped them together to still them. I'm afraid, I whispered. The confession felt like removing a splinter that had been embedded so deep I'd almost forgotten it was there. The relief of naming the fear was immediate and overwhelming. Jessica was quiet for a long moment. I could feel her thinking, processing, considering her next words with the same care she brought to everything she did. When she finally spoke, it wasn't what I expected. I believe in you. 4 words. Simple, direct. But the way she said them made something crack open in my chest. I believe in you, she repeated, turning to face me fully. And I believe we can pull this through together. She shifted, pulling one leg up onto the bed and turning her body fully toward me. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you surprised yourself? The question landed like a physical blow. When was the last time I'd surprised myself? When had I last done something that made me think, I didn't know I had that in me? When had I last stepped outside my own expectations and discovered something new? I had no answer. The silence stretched out. I can't remember, I finally admitted. The truth of it was staggering. I'd been so focused on refining, perfecting, and optimizing what I already knew how to do that I'd stopped exploring entirely. I'd stopped risking. I'd stopped allowing myself to be a beginner at anything. And audiences can sense that. They can feel when a performer is in their comfort zone versus when they're discovering something in real time. She was right, of course she was right, but knowing the diagnosis didn't immediately provide the cure. So what do I do? I asked. I stared at her, not understanding. She stood up, moving to her phone on the dresser. A few swipes and taps, then she was walking back to me, screen glowing. Let me show you something? Before I could respond, she'd settled back beside me and turned her phone so I could see the screen. It was a photograph of a drag performer. Elaborate makeup, towering wig, costume that defied physics, presence that commanded the entire frame even in a still image. The performer was captured mid-laugh, mouth wide open, eyes sparkling with absolute uninhibited joy. Drag queens, Jessica said quietly. I looked at the image, then at Jessica. My brain was trying to process what she was suggesting, but it kept hitting a wall of confusion and resistance. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. Are you suggesting that I'm suggesting, Jessica said carefully, that you stop trying to be a better version of the Justin everyone expects and become someone no one expects at all. The suggestion hung in the air between us, impossible and terrifying, and somehow, inexplicably, the first thing that had felt even remotely like a solution. I can't, I said automatically. I'm not. What would people think? They'd think you were brave, Jessica replied immediately. They'd think you were interesting. They'd think you were willing to risk something real instead of playing it safe. My heart was pounding. I could feel sweat forming on my palms despite the cool room. Every rational part of my brain was screaming that this was ridiculous, impossible, too risky, too exposed, too everything. But underneath the panic, something else was stirring. Curiosity. Possibility. The faint electric tingle of genuine fear, which I'd learned long ago was often indistinguishable from excitement. I don't know how, I said weakly. I don't know anything about. I do, Jessica said, and there was something in her voice, a quiet confidence, that made me believe her. I can help you, but only if you're willing to trust me. She was looking at me with such clear-eyed faith, such absolute certainty that this could work, that for a moment I could almost see myself through her eyes. Not the panicking man on the bed, but someone capable of transformation. Someone brave enough to try something genuinely terrifying. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Then I thought about something else, something I couldn't quite picture yet but could feel in the abstract. The sensation of surprising myself, of genuinely not knowing what would happen next. Okay, I heard myself say. The word came out before I'd fully processed the decision. Okay, let's try it. Jessica's face transformed into something softer and more powerful. Relief mixed with determination. She stood up immediately, already moving into planning mode. "We start now," Jessica uttered. She was already heading for her studio, already pulling out her phone to start whatever research or preparation she'd been mentally compiling. No thinking, just doing. And just like that, there was no turning back. By midnight, our living room had transformed into mission control. Jessica's laptop was open on the coffee table, displaying at least 15 browser tabs of research. "Okay," she said, settling onto the floor. "We have approximately 18 hours before you need to be at the venue. That's not a lot of time, but it's enough if we're strategic." I sat on the couch above her, still trying to process the fact that I had agreed to this. Every few minutes, a wave of "what am I doing" would wash over me, and I'd have to consciously breathe through it. I went to bed but didn't sleep. How could I? My mind was racing through every possible disaster scenario. I imagined stepping onto the stage and being laughed at, but not in the good way, in the cruel way, the mocking way. This was it, the point of no return. Once we started, there'd be no pretending this wasn't really happening. I sat, Jessica stood in front of me, studying my face with an artist's eye. We're going to start with skincare, then primer, then the actual makeup. This is going to take a while, probably 3 hours minimum. You good with that? 3 hours of sitting still while someone transformed me into something unrecognizable. 3 hours to doubt and panic and potentially back out. 3 hours until there was no turning back. "I'm good," I lied. There was still time to stop, still time to laugh this off as a bad idea. Once the makeup started, that door would close forever. Once she touched my face, there would be no pretending this was just an idea. Jessica began. The first touch of her fingers on my face was gentle, clinical. Each step was deliberate, methodical. She worked with the focus of someone performing a sacred ritual, and I found myself relaxing into it despite my anxiety. I felt the brush on my eyelids sweeping color across the delicate skin. Back and forth, building layers, creating depth. Then eyeliner, lashes, followed by my lips and nails. When she finished, I looked down at my hands and almost didn't recognize them. The neon green was aggressive, impossible to ignore, absolutely committed to being seen. I flexed my fingers experimentally and watched these foreign extensions move with them. "How do they feel?" Jessica asked. "Weird," I admitted, "like I'm wearing someone else's hands." "Good," she said. "That's exactly the point. Now stay here. I need to get the outfit ready." She disappeared, leaving me alone with my transformed self I couldn't see yet. But I kinda loved them. Jessica returned, laid everything out on the bed in the order I'd need to put it on. First came the tights, the shoes, and the outfit. I sat on the edge of the bed to put them on. "Ready for the wig?" Jessica asked. Was I ready? I had no idea, but we'd come this far. Yes. The wig was voluminous, long, curly, and even just sitting there, it had personality, presence. The weight was immediate and significant, not uncomfortable exactly, but undeniably present. I could feel it with every movement of my head, feel the curls shifting and settling. Jessica stepped back, hands on her hips. "Okay," she said finally. "Are you ready to see?" My heart started pounding. This was it, the moment of truth. Once I saw myself, there'd be no more abstract fear. It would become concrete, real, undeniable. "Ready," I said, though I wasn't sure I was. Jessica removed the sheet from the bathroom mirror in one smooth motion, and I stopped breathing. The person staring back at me from the mirror was not me, and also completely me. It was the strangest cognitive dissonance I'd ever experienced. The face was mine. I could see my bone structure underneath, could recognize my eyes despite their dramatic framing, but everything else was transformed. The contouring had reshaped my features into something sharper, more dramatic. The eyes were enormous, commanding, framed by those incredible lashes that caught the light with every blink. The lips were full and glossy, the exact pink shade that Jessica had somehow known would work perfectly with the rest of the look. Something that had always been there but had never had permission to exist. Some part of me that understood boldness, that craved presence, that wanted to be seen without apology. The makeup and wig and outfit weren't creating a false person. They were giving permission to a real one. Jessica squeezed my shoulder gently. "How do you feel?" Terrified. Exposed. Powerful, like I was standing on the edge of something enormous and there was no going back. I feel," I said slowly, searching for the right words, Like I might actually be able to do this. You are, Jessica said with absolute certainty. You absolutely are. I looked at my reflection one more time, at this bold, dramatic, impossible version of myself, and felt something shift in my chest. The fear was still there, but it was being joined by something else. Anticipation, excitement, the electric thrill of genuine uncertainty. Okay, I said, squaring my shoulders and watching the movement ripple through the outfit. It's us against them. Jessica laughed, delighted. That's the spirit. And then it was time to step outside, time to take this transformation out of the private safety of our bathroom and into the world. Time to become this person, not just in appearance, but in action. I took a deep breath, wobbled slightly on the heels, found my balance, and headed for the door. The drive to the fun fair was surreal. I sat in the passenger seat of our car, hyper-aware of every sensation. The wig pressing against the headrest, the bodysuit's snug fit, the way the nails clicked against my phone screen when I nervously checked the time. Jessica drove with her usual calm competence, occasionally glancing over at me with an encouraging smile. We pulled into the performers' parking area behind the main fairgrounds. Already I could hear the noise. Music, crowd chatter, the mechanical sounds of rides, the general chaos of thousands of people gathered in pursuit of entertainment. My stomach clenched. When I opened the car door and stood up, the evening air hit me immediately. It was warm, carrying the smells of fried food and cotton candy, and that particular scent of outdoor crowds. The sun was setting, casting everything in that golden hour light that made the whole scene feel slightly magical. And then people started noticing me. A family walking past stopped mid-conversation. The kids' eyes went wide. The parents did a double take. Then smiles. Then the mother actually waved. "You look amazing," she called out. I felt my face flush under the makeup. I managed to smile back. We made our way to the backstage area, and the reactions from the other performers were similar. Surprise, curiosity, appreciation. The technical director, a gruff man named Marcus, who I'd worked with before, did an actual double take. "Justin?" he said, incredulous. "Holy hell, man, wow, that's a choice." I couldn't tell if he was impressed or concerned, so I just smiled. Thought I'd try something different. "Different is right," he muttered, but he was grinning. "Well, you'll definitely get their attention. You're on in 15. Suddenly, it was real. In 15 minutes, I'd be stepping onto that stage in front of thousands of people, wearing this outrageous outfit, embodying this dramatic persona, with absolutely no idea if it would work or crash spectacularly. Jessica squeezed my hand. "You've got this," she whispered. "Just remember, you're not performing for them. You're performing for yourself. You're exploring what it feels like to be completely uninhibited. They're just lucky enough to witness it." I nodded, trusting her completely. The 15 minutes passed in a blur of last-minute preparations. Sound check. Lighting adjustments. Marcus explaining the technical cues. And then, before I was ready, before I could ever be ready, I heard my introduction. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage our host for the evening." This was it. I stepped out from behind the curtain onto the stage, and the first thing that hit me was the lights. Brilliant, hot, overwhelming. They caught the aqua wig, the metallic accents in the bodysuit, the glossy pink lips, and transformed everything into pure spectacle. Thousands of people, stretching back as far as I could see in the rapidly darkening evening, all of them looking up at me, all of them seeing this bold, impossible version of myself. For a heartbeat, I froze. Pure terror locked every muscle. This was the moment where it could all fall apart, where the fear could win, where I could prove every doubt correct. And then I felt the weight of the wig shift as I moved my head, felt the heels forcing me to stand taller, stronger, looked down at those neon green nails gripping the microphone. Remember Jessica's words, "You're not performing for them, you're performing for yourself." So I did. I started moving. Not with Justin's careful, controlled movements, but with this bold, sweeping physicality that the outfit demanded. The asymmetrical bodysuit created this beautiful visual flow as I walked across the stage. The heels made each step deliberate, commanding. The wig bounced and swayed with every movement, creating its own drama. And the crowd responded. First with surprise, a collective intake of breath as they fully processed what they were seeing. then with something else. Curiosity, delight. Energy started building, feeding back and forth between the stage and the audience. I opened my mouth and started talking, and the voice that came out wasn't my usual careful performance voice. It was bigger, bolder, absolutely committed to filling every inch of space. I worked the crowd with an abandon I'd never accessed before, pointing those neon nails at people, strutting across the stage, inhabiting the character fully. And it worked. God, it worked. The audience was leaning in, laughing, cheering, completely engaged. Every movement I made created ripples through the crowd. When I raised my arms, they cheered louder. When I walked to the edge of the stage, they pressed closer. When I delivered a punchline, the laughter was enormous, genuine, surprised. I wasn't doing anything that different from my usual material, not really. The jokes were similar, the crowd work techniques were the same. But the presentation, the absolute commitment to this bold, uninhibited persona, transformed everything. The same content that had felt stale and forgettable when delivered by safe, careful Justin became electric when delivered by this fearless, dramatic character. The performance built momentum organically. Each positive response from the crowd fed my confidence, which made me bolder, which got bigger responses. It was a cycle of escalation, and I rode it like a wave. At one point, I found myself in the middle of the stage, arms spread wide, aqua curls catching the spotlights, that bold Baroque bodysuit creating this incredible silhouette, and the crowd was cheering so loudly I could feel it vibrating in my chest. I was completely present, completely alive, completely unafraid of taking up space. This was what I'd been missing, not better jokes or more polished delivery, just permission. Permission to be enormous, permission to be bold, permission to step outside the safe boundaries I'd constructed and just exist loudly. The show was supposed to run 45 minutes. I could have gone for hours. The energy was intoxicating. The connection with the audience more real than anything I'd felt in months. When Marcus finally gave me the signal that time was up, I actually felt disappointed. I brought the show to a close with one final bit, something improvised, inspired by the energy in the moment, and the crowd erupted. Not polite applause, not lukewarm appreciation, actual, genuine, enthusiastic cheering, people on their feet, phones out capturing the moment, the kind of response every performer dreams about. As I took my bow, a deep, theatrical gesture that would have seemed absurd in my usual performances, but felt perfectly natural now, I could hear individual voices in the crowd. "That was incredible! Who is that? We need more!" The chanting started as I was walking off stage. Just a few voices at first, then building, spreading, until hundreds of people were repeating the name I'd performed under, the name that felt both foreign and perfectly right. Backstage, Marcus grabbed my arm, his eyes wide. "What the hell was that?" he demanded. But he was grinning. I've never seen anything like that. The energy, the audience response. Justin, that was extraordinary. Jessica was there immediately, pulling me into a hug despite the makeup and wig and everything. "I knew it," she whispered. "I knew you could do this." The adrenaline was still coursing through my system, making my hands tremble and my heart race. But it wasn't fear anymore. It was pure exhilaration. The feeling of having risked everything and discovered that the fear had been lying all along. "We crushed the revenue projections," Marcus was saying, checking his phone where real-time sales data was apparently streaming in. "Merchandise, concessions, everything spiked during your set. Whatever you just did, it worked. Like really, really worked. I did it again on Sunday, and the response was even bigger. Word had spread overnight about the bold performer at the fairground, and people came specifically to see the show. The crowd was larger, more energetic, more engaged. I gave them everything I had, and they gave it right back. By Sunday night, when I finally stepped off that stage for the last time, removed the wig slowly in the quiet backstage area, I was exhausted. My feet ached from the heels. My face felt strange under all that makeup. My voice was raw from projecting over the crowd noise, but I was also more alive than I'd felt in years. The removal of the costume and makeup was its own kind of ritual. Jessica helped me, working with the same careful attention she'd brought to the application. But in reverse. First the wig, then the boots, the bodysuit next, peeling away to reveal the regular clothes underneath. The tights. the accessories. Layer by layer, the physical transformation reversed. Finally, the makeup. Jessica used gentle removers, carefully wiping away the dramatic eyes, the sculpted contours, the glossy lips. Each swipe of the cotton pad revealed more of my natural face, until eventually I was just Justin again, except I wasn't. Not entirely. I looked at myself in the mirror, plain, undramatic, familiar, and something was different. Not in my appearance, but in the way I held myself, in my eyes. There was a confidence there that hadn't existed before, a knowing that came from having pushed past a fundamental fear and survived. More than survived. Thrived. I turned to face her fully. You saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. You believed in this crazy idea when I was ready to quit. You did all of this. I gestured at the supplies scattered around the bathroom, the evidence of her incredible work. Because you knew I needed it, even when I didn't. Jessica's eyes were bright, with the satisfaction of seeing her vision realized. I just helped you access what was already there, she said softly. Thank you, I said simply, for believing in me, for seeing me, for being the hero I needed even when I didn't know I needed one. Jessica pulled me into a hug, and we stayed like that for a long moment, just breathing, just being present with what we'd accomplished together. Over the next few days, as life slowly returned to normal, I found myself thinking about the weekend constantly. Not just the performance itself, but what it represented. The bookings started coming in almost immediately. People who'd been at the fair, or who'd heard about it, or who'd seen videos that audience members had shared online. Everyone wanted to know if I'd do more shows like that, if the dramatic persona could be repeated. My career didn't just survive, it transformed. Not because I'd found a gimmick, but because I'd rediscovered the courage to be genuinely present, genuinely uncertain, genuinely alive on stage. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is ignore the fear's advice and step forward anyway. If you've ever felt a version of yourself waiting quietly to be allowed into the world, this channel is for you. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I share stories like this one because I believe in the power of transformation, in the importance of acknowledging our heroes, and in our collective ability to become braver versions of ourselves. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And thank you to everyone out there who's quietly being someone else's hero. You're changing the world in ways you might never fully know. The end.
Country Comment and Activities, CTA. Before we dive in, please hit that subscribe button and join the Gender Diary family for more heartfelt stories about discovery, transformation, and love. And I'd love to know, what time and country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. It always makes my day to see where our stories reach. The end.